and completely out of dust. And it pays off the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
The information in this video is based on news reports I've compiled. The suspect is presumed innocent until proven guilty. This content is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Americans' outrage over the state of healthcare has reached a boiling point, as evidenced by the shocking story surrounding the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Every time I'm about to dive into what's going on with this case, something new pops up. The rumors and theories flying around range from totally legit to full-on conspiracy theory level. Before we get into that, let's backtrack a bit and talk about Brian. Brian Thompson was born on July 10, 1974 in Ames, Iowa, one of two sons of Dennis and Pat Thompson. He graduated high school in 1993 as class valedictorian and went on to the University of Iowa, where he earned a bachelor's degree in business administration with a major in accounting in 1997. Notably, he was also the valedictorian of his graduating class at the university. Brian met his wife, Pat, a physical therapist, while attending the University of Iowa. They later settled in Maple Grove, Minnesota, where they raised their two sons. In 2004, Brian joined UnitedHealthcare and rose to become the CEO of its Government Programs Division in 2021, overseeing Medicare and retirement programs. During his leadership, the company's profits soared from $12 billion in 2021 to $16 billion in 2023, alongside his own compensation increasing from $9.6 million to $10.2 million during the same period. Today, UnitedHealthcare stands as the largest health insurer in the U.S., covering over 49 million Americans, including myself. For context, unlike many other countries, the U.S. doesn't have a universal government-run healthcare system. Instead, most Americans rely on employer-sponsored plans, private insurance, or government-assisted programs, making companies like UnitedHealthcare key players in the system. In May 2024, Brian and two other UnitedHealthcare executives were sued by the Hollywood, Florida Firefighters Pension Fund, accused of fraud and insider trading. The lawsuit alleges they failed to disclose a Department of Justice antitrust investigation while selling $120 million in personal stock before the news broke, potentially sidestepping losses from the company's declining stock value. Brian himself was accused of insider trading for selling $15 million in stock just before the federal investigation was made public. Meanwhile, his $10 million annual pay highlighted the stark income inequality in the U.S., where CEOs earn nearly 300 times the average worker's salary. The outcry serves as a stark warning to the establishment. Years of neglecting healthcare reform have left Americans grappling with a system that prioritizes corporate profits over patient care. Under Brian Thompson's leadership, criticism of UnitedHealthcare intensified as the company denied nearly 1 in 3 insurance claims in 2023, double the industry average. Many saw this as a clear example of profit being placed above people's well-being, solidifying Thompson as a symbol of a system perceived as deeply flawed. Adding to the controversy, a lawsuit filed shortly before his death alleged that UnitedHealthcare employed an AI system to deny coverage for elderly patients, despite knowing it was wrong 90% of the time. Critics claim the practice continued under Thompson's watch, relying on the fact that only 2% of customers challenged denied claims. These issues symbolized the growing frustrations with the U.S. healthcare system. Public outrage turned viral, with memes and tweets encapsulating the anger. For many, health insurance isn't just a bureaucratic hurdle. It's an ongoing source of stress and financial strain. Even healthy individuals with no pre-existing conditions cannot afford coverage. Despite programs like the Affordable Care Act's healthcare marketplace, premiums often ranged from $400 to $800 monthly, excluding dependents, making coverage unattainable for many. This reflects a broader issue. Americans have long faced skyrocketing premiums, opaque practices, and a system that prioritizes profit over care. By 2021, nearly 20% of insurance claims were denied, about 50 million instances of coverage being refused. Meanwhile, UnitedHealthcare thrived under Brian's tenure, reporting $20.1 billion in net income in 2022, and a 15% increase to $22.4 billion in 2023. All of this happened while 41% of U.S. adults carried medical or dental debt, and 13% owed $10,000 or more. The U.S. paradox of exorbitant healthcare spending was 18% in 2022. This is higher than any other developed nation and contrasts sharply with its poor outcomes. The country ranks last in men's health and low in life expectancy, fueling questions about the healthcare system's priorities. Insurers like UnitedHealthcare, which are expected to reduce risks and negotiate better rates, often appear more focused on maximizing shareholder returns. Brian's leadership at UnitedHealthcare drew sharp criticism for policies like retroactively denying emergency room coverage if visits were deemed non-emergencies, leaving patients with shocking bills. The company was also sued for rejecting proton beam therapy claims, a proven cancer treatment. These decisions amplified public anger, especially after his death, as other insurers rushed to distance themselves from similar practices. On December 4th, UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was fatally shot on his way to a shareholder meeting. The public's reaction to Thompson's death has been polarizing. Social media erupted with memes and gallows humor, reflecting widespread discontent with a healthcare system that many see as unjust and exploitative.
Nobody deserves to get on their way to work. Nobody deserves to get their healthcare claims denied either.
Someone said thoughts and prayers and deductibles.
I want to remind everyone that if it's naked, get a stitches, and the stitches might not be covered by your insurance plan.
While some mourn the loss of a father and husband, others argue that Thompson symbolized an industry complicit in preventable suffering and death. The murder has reignited discussions about wealth inequality and corporate accountability. In the broader context, it highlights systemic issues: an industry incentivized to deny care, a growing wealth gap, and a public increasingly disillusioned with unchecked capitalism. This situation serves as a stark reminder of the deep frustrations many Americans feel toward institutions that profit from their hardships, and the urgent need for systemic reform. The killer had been waiting outside the hotel for several minutes, stood roughly 20 feet from Brian as he approached the entrance. He fired at least 3 shots from a suppressed 9mm pistol, 2 striking Brian in the right calf and back. The entire incident was captured on security cameras. What makes this case particularly strange is that Brian, who typically traveled with security due to prior threats against his life, was walking alone at such an unusual hour, 6:45 a.m., without any protection. The timing and location also raised questions, as the killer appeared several minutes before Brian emerged, and both were perfectly framed within the camera's view. Even more puzzling, the assailant calmly walked away from the scene after the shooting, without fleeing in a hurry or using a getaway vehicle. Security footage shows the killer manually cycling rounds in the weapon, initially leading to speculation that the gun malfunctioned. However, further analysis by law enforcement and online investigators suggested that the weapon could have been a bolt-action design, which is relatively uncommon. Some have even speculated it might have been a 3D printed ghost gun, adding another layer of intrigue. The killer fled the scene on an e-bike, heading into Central Park before hailing a cab and leaving the city from the George Washington Bridge bus station. Brian was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead at 7:12 a.m. As soon as the incident occurred, it made national headlines. Reports indicate that the killer checked into a hostel on Manhattan's Upper West Side using a fake New Jersey ID card and paid in cash, leaving little trace of his identity. Authorities later released surveillance images of the killer taken before the attack. This included footage from the hostel where he stayed and a nearby Starbucks. In the stills, the killer is seen smiling and reportedly flirting with a female employee at the hostel's front desk. Additional photos show him riding in a taxi. Investigators revealed a chilling detail. The 3 rounds fired during the attack had the words delay, deny, and depose engraved on them. These are well-known phrases in the insurance industry, often associated with avoiding payouts. This discovery has led authorities to consider the possibility of the attack being a revenge killing. At the scene, police discovered several items thought to belong to the killer, including a water bottle, a kind bar wrapper, and a disposable phone. 2 days later, the killer's backpack was found in Central Park. Inside were a Tommy Hilfiger jacket and Monopoly money, an odd and intriguing discovery. Personally, I suspect he either intended to scatter the Monopoly money over the body after the murder, but ran out of time, or it was meant to throw off police. In their efforts to locate additional evidence, investigators deployed drones, K-9 units, and even scuba divers. Following the incident, Brian's estranged wife, Pat, released a statement expressing her family's devastation over the senseless killing. She described Brian as a loving, generous, and talented man, as well as an incredibly devoted father. It was also disclosed that Brian had been receiving threats for some time prior to the attack. The breakthrough came at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where an employee recognized Mangione from the released images. Acting quickly, the employee called 911, leading to Mangione's arrest.
That actually thought it was him. She said it between his eyes and his eyebrows. She says, when I took his order, it was like she got in her mind, oh my God.
When law enforcement detained Luigi, they discovered a firearm resembling the one used in the attack, along with a silencer and a fake ID that matched the one used by the killer at the New York City hotel. Additionally, police found a manifesto in Luigi's possession. The document reportedly expressed his anger toward the healthcare industry and its profits, including quotes like, "To the feds, I'll keep this short, because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming." Luigi claimed in the manifesto that he acted alone and was self-funded. "This is a testament to the strength of community and law enforcement collaboration," said a Pennsylvania official. The arrest marks a significant downfall for Mangione, once regarded as a rising star. Born into a prominent Baltimore family, Luigi is reported to be an anti-capitalist and a former Ivy League student. He graduated as valedictorian from Baltimore's prestigious Gilman School in 2016, where tuition reportedly costs around $40,000 a year, before earning degrees in computer science and mathematics from the University of Pennsylvania. With an impressive resume that included internships at top tech companies, he was widely viewed as a young man destined for a promising future. However, Mangione's life began to unravel in 2022 after a severe spinal injury and subsequent surgery left him in chronic pain. Friends and family noted his increasing isolation, culminating in a missing person report filed by his mother in November. Investigators have since uncovered troubling signs of ideological extremism. Mangione's manifesto reportedly labeled corporate leaders as parasites and rationalized violent actions against them. His online activity included references to extremist literature, including Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. Authorities have charged Mangione with firearm violations, forgery, and second-degree murder. The weapon found in his possession matches shell casings recovered at the crime scene, and his fingerprints were found on discarded items nearby. Surveillance footage and witness statements further tie Mangione to the crime. Investigators are now piecing together his movements in the days leading up to the murder. Mangione traveled by bus from Atlanta to New York, made cash purchases to avoid detection, and stayed at a Manhattan hostel under a fake ID. The bullets used in the killing bore cryptic messages: deny, depose, defend. This, coupled with Mangione's manifesto, has led authorities to believe the murder may have been ideologically motivated, rooted in resentment toward the healthcare industry. Public reactions to the case have been polarizing.
Prize because I called 911? And I should have called the tip line? Right. Well, at least everyone knows my name, right? Right. And they know where I work. Right. And everyone's mad that I turned in that man? Right. So what you're saying is, I don't get the money, I don't have a job, everyone hates me. Right. Well,
Hey America, how you doing? I just wanted to weigh in on the CEO from UnitedHealthcare getting shot. Nurse's perspective, bedside nurse for 31 years. CEO who got shot, I hope you rot in hell, you son of a... This healthcare CEO is responsible for thousands of deaths of American citizens. Makes the terrorists look like Boy Scouts. That's what a joke this is. I think the shooter is a national hero.
Love that. Okay, well, if you need a place to stay, here's my address, phone number, and social security, and of course my keys.
While many mourn Thompson's death, frustration with the healthcare system has also surfaced. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro condemned any attempts to frame Mangione as a hero, stating, "We do not resolve policy differences through violence. acts of vigilante justice make us all less safe. New York City Mayor Eric Adams stated that Luigi matches the killer's description and was found in possession of items linked to the case. He is currently considered a strong person of interest, and investigators are working to tie him to other evidence recovered from the scene. While this investigation unfolds, social media has been abuzz. Many users have shared condolences and prayers for Brian Thompson's family. Luigi's family, a prominent household in Pennsylvania, released a statement saying, "Unfortunately, we cannot comment on news reports regarding Luigi. We only know what we have read in the media. Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson and ask people to pray for all involved." However, the situation has also sparked divisive opinions. Some have mocked Brian's death.
We have an unmasked photo of the gunman. We should all be looking for him together. I'm just kidding. They should definitely try conservative care before reaching out for outside help.
People clutching their pearls over this instance with the UnitedHealthcare CEO are really interesting to me because I'm frankly not surprised at all. There's a lot of instances collectively of having been directly harmed and having our lives put at risk by UnitedHealthcare. Specifically for me, I have type 1 narcolepsy, and in 2022, the medication that I need to keep transient paralysis caused by narcolepsy under control so that I don't fall and hit my head or neck and have the natural consequences of that, the medicine that I need for that, they kept denying. And I told UnitedHealthcare that this happened in the appeal to get my medication covered, and like rounds and rounds and rounds of appeals. They didn't care, and they knew that I was at risk of like unaliving or being permanently harmed, and like they didn't care. And the CEO was the CEO at that time. I don't feel sad for this guy. I genuinely don't.
How much hate you gotta have in your heart to off somebody at 7 o'clock in the morning?
CEO of UnitedHealthcare being alive yesterday on his way to an investors meeting, and then continuing to do the meeting and then finish the meeting while his dead body is outside. He will be replaced. There will always be emails to send. There will always be people to call. There will always be things that need to be done. To that man, they're already looking for someone to replace him as the CEO of the company. The CEO was unalived and business went on like usual.
Off this video by saying I do not condone violence by any means, but let's talk about what happened today with the UnitedHealthcare CEO. As a mom who was 9 months pregnant, sitting in the emergency room with my 1-year-old baby, being told she had a giant brain tumor that was causing her brain to essentially swell out of her head. And instead, we sat in the hospital for 3 days because UnitedHealthcare refused to approve the transfer via ambulance from the hospital where we live to another state. And at that point, I was ready to just get in my car and take her there myself, but United told us if we left the hospital by our own will and it wasn't via ambulance, they were not going to cover her at the next hospital we went to.
This case has sparked intense emotions and debates, highlighting the public's frustration with the American healthcare system. Investigators believe the killing may have been an act of revenge, but many details remain unclear, and the situation feels far from straightforward. The circumstances surrounding the killer, Luigi Mangione, raise many questions. How did a 26-year-old Ivy League graduate from a wealthy, well-connected family, someone who likely never faced financial barriers to medical care, end up allegedly committing such a crime? Luigi disappeared for months, seemingly cutting ties with friends and family, only to resurface in connection with this case. The timeline is puzzling. Brian walked out of his hotel alone at 6:45 a.m., well before the 8 a.m. investment conference. Security footage shows the assailant arriving just minutes before Brian, standing directly in the camera's frame. After the attack, the killer casually walked away, leaving behind a backpack with clues, a move that seems oddly convenient. Further complicating matters, Luigi, reportedly suffering from a severe back injury, was later seen in Altoona, Pennsylvania, acting in ways that seem inconsistent with someone attempting to avoid detection. For instance, instead of laying low, he was spotted at a McDonald's, where he was ultimately identified. Investigators have linked him to the crime through evidence such as a fake ID, a firearm, and a manifesto criticizing the healthcare industry. Adding to the strangeness, Brian's homes were swatted the night of his death, with false bomb threats leading police to search his properties. Such events are rare and have only fueled speculation. There are also theories circulating online. Some suggest Brian's death might have been staged, questioning whether he could still be alive. Others believe the killer was a highly trained professional, pointing to the precision of the attack and the engraved bullets. Delay, deny, depose. Phrases tied to the insurance industry. Regardless of the truth, the real victims are the families. Both Brian's and Luigi's loved ones are left grieving and searching for answers. It's also worth noting that Brian and his wife, though still legally married, were reportedly separated since 2018, which adds another layer of intrigue to the swatting incident. Theories abound, but one thing is clear. This case is far from ordinary. Whether Luigi acted alone, or if this points to something larger, remains to be seen. It appears to me that Luigi wanted to be caught, and I'll explain why I believe this to be the case. For someone as intelligent as Luigi, his actions defy logic. He made several glaring mistakes, many of which could have been easily avoided with more thoughtful planning. One of the most obvious errors was his failure to wear gloves. In high-stakes situations, gloves are a basic precaution, especially given the cold weather conditions. Luigi could have purchased rubber gloves with cash from a distant store well before the incident. Wearing gloves in such weather wouldn't have drawn suspicion, especially when paired with a mask. Observers would likely assume he was either dressed for the cold or trying to avoid spreading germs. In cities like New York, for example, seeing someone dressed this way wouldn't raise an eyebrow. Another critical mistake was his failure to properly dispose of the weapon. Assuming the gun found at McDonald's was his, the fact that he left it intact is baffling. If the weapon was 3D printed, he could have dismantled it using tools like a hacksaw or pliers, breaking it into small, untraceable pieces. Distributing these fragments across Pennsylvania would have made it nearly impossible to recover and link the weapon to him. Luigi also made the conspicuous error of wearing clothing and a backpack, similar to those already associated with him. A simple wardrobe change after the crime could have drastically reduced his chances of being identified. Another glaring misstep was his use of the same fake New Jersey driver's license already tied to him. This was a critical blunder. He should have prepared a separate, untraceable fake identity for any post-crime interactions, which would have minimized the risk of detection. Remaining in a small town like Altoona, Pennsylvania, and engaging in behavior that drew unnecessary attention was another questionable decision. Sitting in a McDonald's with a laptop while wearing a mask, especially during the typical morning gathering of older locals, was bound to raise suspicions. Wearing a mask resembling the one seen in widely circulated photos only made him stand out more. Perhaps the most egregious mistake was writing down incriminating details in a journal or similar medium. This is one of the easiest errors to avoid. Documenting plans or actions creates physical evidence that can be used against you, and doing so was a completely unnecessary risk. Luigi had ample opportunity after the crime to disappear, or, at the very least, change his appearance. Discarding his recognizable clothing and face mask in favor of a completely different style, such as transitioning from preppy to skater, urban, or alternative, would have significantly reduced his chances of being recognized. He could have further avoided detection by staying in a hotel or an Airbnb and using no-contact delivery services like Uber Eats or DoorDash, which allow orders to be left at the door. This approach would have ensured that no one saw or interacted with him. Considering the repeated nature of these mistakes, it's almost certain that investigators will uncover additional incriminating evidence, such as damning information on his computer. This will only add to the already long list of errors he made. While it's easy to critique decisions in hindsight, Luigi's missteps, such as leaving fingerprints, failing to destroy the weapon, and maintaining a recognizable appearance, are basic errors that even someone of average intelligence would likely avoid. For someone as bright as Luigi, these mistakes seem intentional. It's as though he knew he would be caught eventually, but he wanted it to happen on his terms. By orchestrating his capture in a public place with people around, he ensured that he would be taken into custody safely and without incident. Mangione remains in custody at a Pennsylvania correctional facility as he contests extradition to New York. Prosecutors have presented evidence to a Manhattan grand jury, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul is ready to issue an extradition warrant once an indictment is secured. As the investigation unfolds, questions linger about Mangione's motives, mental state, and whether he acted alone. Authorities are also delving into the broader implications of the case, including the influence of societal pressures and mental health challenges on his actions. This tragic case serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of alienation and societal frustration. It highlights how psychological struggles can lead to decisions that seem irrational or self-destructive. As the community watches the investigation progress, it is left grappling with difficult questions about justice, mental health, and the pervasive impact of societal and corporate pressures. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know which case you want me to cover next. Remember to stay curious, stay safe, and stay skeptical.